Thank you for the introduction
Yeah.
and good afternoon, everyone, boys, girls, and ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed a pleasure to talk to the youngster always. I become very younger when I speak to youngsters. I forget everything and I become a young lad. Um, I have mindfully coined the session as sport called project management because uh, I want to give you the flavor of why it is called as a sport and why I am calling it as a sport and how you guys can look at making this as a career. It's a way of life. How it is so is what I'm going to talk to you about today. Occasionally, you will hear some vehicle moving behind me on the road. Apologize for that. Uh, now let's go to the agenda item as to how we are going to spend time together today. Mm, yeah. So here is how we'll spend about 25-30 minutes around that time because that's all is the content I have. I want to answer few key questions that you guys have in mind as young uh, emerging engineers out of college. What is it that you have in your mind is what I want to answer. For that, I have certain questions which I want to answer beforehand, and other questions that you have in your mind with which you have come here today. I want to take it in the last section. Uh, Next one is all about project manager. Why, how they are important in a project, and then we will move on to a larger subject called as project management. We'll see these three sections, which three different illustrations, which I will take you through to make you understand. Then I will take you through uh, a large organization called as Project Management Institute, a sneak peek about Project Management Institute. And the last section is where I want to spend most of our time together, the conversations. Not purposely calling this as Q&A. I want to have Q&A, to and fro conversation with you as to what is it that you want from me. I don't want this to be just I tell you something and you absorb or not absorb and go away with your questions still in your mind. So I want to spend a large amount of time over that, the conversation section. Now, a little bit about me. Uh, this is what I am. Ashok has given you some amount of introduction about me. And I had a very small beginning in construction field. In fact, when I was in the college, I was kind of I had the need and I had the opportunity. I had both to uh, kind of uh, get into construction engineering, and this attracted me to the field. While in college itself, when I was working in the field, it was so interesting that I said, if I become an engineer, I'm going to become a construction engineer. After I completed my engineering, actually, I was unfortunately or fortunately also unemployed for 6 months. That's when I went into kind of courses on software. Those days, basic C, C++ was just coming in. And I said, instead of sitting idle, why shouldn't I do these? Maybe it'll be useful later. And then when I finished the course, fortunately, I got two offers, one from my software industry and one from my own construction industry. And then I thought that I have spent 4 years of my time in construction education. Let me not go elsewhere, be with construction. And after 35 years, I don't regret that decision anymore. Uh, the beginning was very humble. I was a small time site engineer, and it was in the first week of my career that I went to Hyderabad along with my architect, whom I was working for. And the architect took me to the site, and he had told me that we'll just stay there for a day and come back. I'll show you the site. It was a very large site, very large site. Even to today's standards, it was a very large site. It was a factory that was being constructed. And he said, today night we will take the bus and come back. Those days flights were not in vogue. It was only bus. Even now, Hyderabad, Bangalore, a lot of people do bus shuttling. He left me in Hyderabad and came back. And he said, Nagesh, there's a large bill that has been submitted by the contractor. You have to certify it. I was sweating. I was sweating because it was just my third or fourth day, and I have to certify a bill of a large contractor in Hyderabad, being alone. It was actually today, if I look back, it was a job of only just a day, but I spent 3 days in Hyderabad doing it. Would you learn swimming when you're drowning? No, right? Your interest would be just to come out of it. So I spent 3 days, and I said, I have completed the assignment. I came back to Bangalore. While I was in the bus, I didn't get a sleep in the night. I was thinking, now is the time. I think I have to start learning swimming because I never know when I'll be pushed back into the ocean. So that's how my beginning happened, and here I am talking to you guys on project management. So if I look at if you have to think as to why you guys should listen to me, this is where it is. Uh, as you see, I continued my learnings. It's still going on. I never, and learning never stopped for me. Large number of projects I've handled. I've been associated with large builds. I have directed many projects, and I have shared my learnings with a lot of people, and a lot of them have today become large, big engineers. Some of them entrepreneurs. I have done knowledge sharing structurally as well as non-structurally. Structurally, I have gone to colleges. I've gone to a lot of colleges and I have taught construction management. I think it's been 10 years I've started teaching construction management. But off late, I've not gone to college. Say about for last 4 years, I've not gone. However, I still am passionate about training, teaching, coaching, mentoring. I do in-house programs for a lot of large corporates, and I also do my monthly programs on how to be a manager and how to behave like a manager. And now through PMI, I'm on the board, chair the Engineering and Construction Community Forum. So I do help members and non-members gather some sort of knowledge around projects and construction. So I'm currently in the space of uh, advising, consulting, and coaching people, especially for those who uh, are into transition. Transition, kind of like you guys from college, you will transition into profession. You'll become a small site engineer. One day you will go up the ladder, try to become a senior site engineer. Ultimately, you become a project manager to definitely general managers, vice presidents. You will have your own company probably. You'll become MDs and so on. So there is a transition in your career, in your profession. So I help people in the transition. So when transition happens, there's a lot of turbulence. So I have gone through those turbulences. So I love helping people as advisor, consultant, and coach. That's about me. So let's move on to the very first key questions. Why manage projects? In fact, a lot of people in my training sessions also, this is the first question they ask, whether I'm in college or in corporate or in my own sessions when I start talking about being a manager. People ask me, why should a project be managed? In fact, they say I've asked this to many people and I don't get a convincing answer. Let me try to give you an answer which probably you will take it home. Uh, I remember a story which was circulating in WhatsApp very recently. Uh, that you some of you might have seen it on WhatsApp also. It was a small video wherein people are sitting in the flight and suddenly The two pilots come out of their cabin, they open the door, they have their parachutes with them, they just jump off the door. After some time, the crew members also, they wear their parachutes and jump off the plane, which is in flight. So imagine the panic in the faces of those who are traveling in that plane, right? Similarly, you must have seen a lot of movies where there is a car chase and the driver is shot by somebody, and the vehicle go helter skelter, and the vehicle is irreparably damaged. So imagine what has happened. So if you take these two analogies, every journey, be it a project journey or your life journey, needs a steering. Somebody has to be behind the steering. It's like you guys are in the college. Imagine a college without a principal. Imagine a class without a monitor. Imagine a herd of sheep without a shepherd. Imagine a house without a head of the house. Imagine a plane without pilots. Imagine a plane, ship, cruise without a captain. So what do all these do? What do all these people do? They steer whatever they are steering towards the direction from A to B. Without them, it will go haywire. It will go directionless, is what I say. So this is how I would put it: that a project is a journey from A to B. You start with something, you end up with a completed project. So in this journey, you need somebody who is like the head of the family, who is like the headmaster, who is like the captain or a pilot, in the or a driver, who has to see that the vehicle moves from point A to point B without much of friction, uh, with meeting the objectives. That's the role of project manager. So I think with that story, let me move on a little more. And yeah, let me take this example of the flight again. I don't know how many of you have traveled in a flight. If you take a project and a flight analogy, a flight starts from A, goes to B. That's the project for me. And when you travel to airport, in the airport, you have an ATC, you have aircraft, you have an airliner, you have a lot of people in the airport who help you, people with uniform who help you travel from A to B. So if you look at a project and a flight analogy, it goes something like this. As I said, a flight is a project, and air traffic control are your sponsors and the management, if you can take it like that. And passengers are your end users. And the people around you with uniform are the people who are in your team who will help you take the project from A to B. It could be your taxi driver, it could be the pilot, it could be the people on the air side, it could be people inside the airport, it could be people on the roadside of the airport, and all those people who are on the uniform. Can I request everybody to go on mute, please?
कुछ पक रहे हैं हाँ एक्सक्यूज मी चेक ओह ऐसा है क्या
Somebody is on a different project.
I'm muted.
Okay, thank you. But still, there's some voice coming. It's okay. I think somebody is on a different project.
Yes, sir.
And the runway and the flight path is your budget and cost. You have to be within that. There's somebody else monitoring and directing you to be within that. And you can consider airport as your project office, and the pilot is the project manager. And the project is successful when the aircraft is actually ready or left, or it lands so that it can be used again. Imagine those unsuccessful projects where we have put a lot of satellites in Bay of Bengal, right? They're not usable. So that's an unsuccessful project. For me, project will be successful when it is again used when the aircraft is ready to be used again for the next project. So, with this analogy, you would understand that there is a clear command and control in the project. And so, when you look at project manager, and project management, you will always, what comes into your mind is plan. Somebody is directing, somebody is monitoring. Yes, somebody is planning, directing, and monitoring. It doesn't happen by that one somebody who is called as project manager. It needs lot of people around him to help him take the flight from path A to path B. And major portion of your entire flight path is your decision making and problem solving. No project, irrespective of which domain it is, not just construction project, any project, decision making is to be done. Decision making is an important piece in the project, and problems are bound to happen. Problems will happen. Solving those problems and making the right decision is what making decision and problem solving is also part of project manager. That's why project needs to be managed. You need to command and control, plan, direct, and monitor, decide, and do problem solving. Without this, you will not be able to manage a project. That's why a project manager is needed. Now, let's look at who manages a project. I have told you it's the project manager who manages a project. Let me give you a caution. Project manager is not a designation in many organizations. Project manager, I have done projects when I was a vice president in a project. I have been a project manager when I was a general manager in a project. So my role was a project manager. It was not the designation. So I have been project manager wearing different designations. So project manager is a person who drives the project to its logical conclusion, so that the business objective of a project or the sponsor is met with. So if I look at this project manager, what does he do? That's the biggest question. The second one. Let's look at another example where I try to explain another role of project manager, which I didn't tell you earlier in my previous slide. See, there's an old a grandma story which I want to tell you here. It's about describing an elephant. I'm slightly tweaking it to the current status. So what happened was in Karnataka there is a place called as Dubare where elephants are reared. So once a troop of six blind men were taken to Dubare because they were wanting to see or feel the elephant actually. So when they went there, what happened was there was a, there was a curiosity. So they went near, and since they were blind, they wanted to touch and feel and then understand what is an elephant. So when they went near, so one of the blind men touched the tail and said, "It's a rope. It's not an elephant." Somebody touched an ear and said, "This is a fan." Somebody touched the leg and said, "This is a trunk of a tree." Somebody touched the tusks and said, "This is the swords." Like that, somebody touched the body and said, "This is a piece of rock." Like that, each like the I think the last one touched the trunk of the this thing and said, "This is a branch of a tree." So like that, these six blind men were touching, feeling, and explaining, experiencing the elephant in their own manner. But the person who took all these men to the Dubare, and he said, "This is an elephant. You guys are not able to make out because you're unfortunately blind. You have to feel it and understand. And your understanding by feeling, touching, and feeling is different from what we are seeing it through eyes. So it needs a wise man who can stand at a distance and join all these parts and say this is an elephant." You must have heard about a lot of people saying elephant in the room, making an elephant dance. So elephant analogy is used at many places to make people understand how big an animal is. So this project is such a big animal in lot of projects. Uh, you need a wise man to stand at a distance and say, look here, this is an elephant. You are talking about parts. And whole is bigger than the parts is also what is said. So that wise man is the project manager. He doesn't look at the parts. Like if I talk about construction and its management, you have different stakeholders or different people who come together to make this project, and everybody focuses myopically only to their field of work. You have a contractor who looks at only his work. You have a QS consultant who looks at only his work. You have an architect. You have a supplier who looks at only his supplies. He is not bothered about anything else, right? So everybody looks at the project in their own parts, like the six men described an elephant. So make this jigsaw puzzle complete and say this is an elephant altogether that we are trying to manage and make it dance. That's a project. You need this wise man called as project manager. Now, what are his traits? What are his competencies? We'll look at it later on. However, this is the importance of being a project manager. You have to look at the project as a holistic picture of the project, standing at a distance. What we call it as in HR parlance, we say zoom in and zoom out. You have to zoom in and see the closer small parts also of a project, and stand at a distance, zoom out and see the bigger picture of the project as well. So that is, project manager has to get that ability to zoom in and zoom out of a project and try to understand what is my project, what was envisioned, what is getting done. Is it getting done towards the goal that I am supposed to go? Am I going from A to B? Right. So that is what is the project manager's role. Now coming back to uh, the project, let's focus on project manager a little more. So I had said that he commands and controls the flight. He makes a lot of decision, or he helps the project decisions to be made. And one important thing is the conflict management. Now, as long see there are a lot of people who come together to make a project. If you have to take a flight from A to B, you have a lot of people whom you come across before airport, in the airport, after the airport, in the aircraft, and things like that. So as long as there are people in the project, I call it as there are three C's that are very prevalent. Three C's are: one is there are changes that are going to happen. That is what is the first C. And the next one is the conflict. The third one is chaos. Chaos sometimes is offshoot of this conflict. So I'm not going to talk about chaos. It is a big subject altogether. So conflict is something that the project manager has to manage, not just plan, execute, monitor. That's project management on a zoom in side. But when you zoom out and you see, you have to command, control, make decisions, and also manage the conflict. Management is just not people. There are a lot of technical conflicts also that happen. So that's why your BIM is helping you in many aspects where technical conflicts are being managed, or it fast tracks the technical conflicts management. So project manager looks at that as well. So I would say if uh, 70% of conflicts are managed, I would say 100% of your chaos is managed. So that's how important is managing conflict is important. And for those who love sports, uh, study, I have students here. I have a lot of other people also. I think there are some architects also. I was told by Ashok that they would join. So there are people who love sports in this group who are listening to me. There are people who are very good at studies and they love studies. There are people who dream, right? And there are people who love challenges, adventure, right? So irrespective of whatever you are, you love, you like, what is I would say that project management and being a project manager is something is cut out for you, because project being a project manager, managing a project, using project management tools is actually an adventure. It gives you a lot of learning. You become more wiser. Because of your becoming wiser day by day, you're going to have a growth. And those who like adventure, you will have a variety also. Manager has got lot of variety to handle, irrespective of individual disciplines. And also, the most important thing what you would love is the networking. You get to meet so many people, you get to learn from so many people, you get to observe behavior of so many people. So many people help you, so many people uplift you, so many people help you. And with networking, a lot of things happen in this country or in this profession. So being a project manager gives you on one side, on your left side, all that you have to do, and on the right side, all that you get. So irrespective of what you love, whether you love, dream, good at studies, or you love sports and things like that, project being a project manager is something that you need to take it up as a career. Now, that's why I started the session saying that project manager, being a project manager is like playing a sport. Now you have to have. How do you learn a sport? You need to learn the rules of the game. You need to observe others and learn the game. Then you need a coach to learn the game. Then you start slowly going onto the field and start playing. Then you slowly grow in your playing career, isn't it? So it is those who love sports, being a project manager is good. Those who sit outside and love the sport also, sport has got a lot of things to teach you as a project manager. So both ways, what you are doing in being a project manager is like a sport. That's why I started this as a you sport is something that you love watching as well as you love playing, right? Same way, whether you are a project manager or a part of the project, irrespective of that, you're gonna love being into a project. Now, next is speed, accountability, and ownership. Now, uh, one thing is that if you have to play well, if you have to play well, you have to gain that speed, be accountable for your own game, and you own the game. In the sense, you lose, it's all because of you. If you win, it's all because of you. So, take it from me, people who have been taking these three as their mantra, speed, accountability, ownership, have made their careers in project management very, very well. Okay, now let me give you a little sneak peek of how do you go step by step on this. This is a famous S curve. Wherever you go, S curve is something that will not leave you at all. And in your career also, your S curve starts like this. Your career starts like an S curve. The step one is uh, you take you take whatever comes in your way, right? Learn this as a team sport very, very slowly and very, very steadily. There are two ways. A lot of people have asked me, sir, should I start working in a big company or a small company? It doesn't matter. You can be a small fish in a big pond or a big fish in a small pond. Either ways, you have challenges. Ocean has got sharks in it, and small pond, you have limitations. You can't grow much. So either ways, you will have to have manage the constraint. So, but only thing that today I can tell you is you have to be very careful. You have to make right decisions, take right risks, right? So now the next one is in that low end career of yours, there will be a lot of places where there is scope for learning. Keep an eye for discovering what is good, discovering what is bad, and discovering what is new for you. And also take all the three of them as you're learning. This is that in the low end phase. And what will happen is also there is 60% of the days will not be yours. You will go with certain mindset to work, and in this first phase of low end will not go the way you want it. That's why I said 60% day is not yours because you are being controlled by somebody else. But it can be yours unless and until you have that open discovery mind and learning mindset, right? So it's like a boxer in the ring, you know. So boxer doesn't, or a wrestler doesn't go to the play once for all. Every day he practices and he gets hit himself, right? So he knows that he is preparing for tomorrow. Though he's getting hit in the practice sessions as well. He gets hurt also, but you have to wait for that big day of the match. That big day of the match is when you are in the sweet spot. That's when your game starts. That is when you become a project manager. You start managing the project, right? So you have learned uh, certain things in your low ends when you were in the learning phase. I'm not saying the learning doesn't end, but the most of the learnings happen in your low end phase, and that is where in the sweet spot you start applying all of them. So here is what you start using all your low end skills into the sweet spot. I'll make a statement here. Your college learning, what you do is about 5% of it is what you're going to use in your professional career. Your college is like the remote that you have in your house. I'm sure everybody has seen that remote at home. You have a cable remote and you have a TV remote. Oh, you have so many buttons on it. How many of them do you use it? Very few of them, right? And how many of them do you use it very often? Very few of them. So your college education is that 5% on the remote, which you keep using it often. I'm not saying others are not important. They are important. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been on the remote as a button, right? They are important. So, what is it that you will have to do in your sweet spot? You have to gain your strength more and more, right? You have learned failure in your low end by embracing the constraint. Now is the time you will have to understand why is the failure happening. That is what I mean by giving failure its due. You will have chance to know the root cause analysis, root cause of your failure. That's when you will be in the limelight and you will know a lot of things for you to understand if something did not happen the way you wanted, why it did not happen. Because in your low end you would not know. You have to only embrace the things that is coming. You will not get to know, so don't go behind why it happened. You will know that when you come into the sweet spot. And also the next one is step back and go. Remember I talked about zoom in and zoom out. So here is where you will get a lot of chances to zoom out and see what is happening that is not going the way I wanted. That is why things are going wrong. Where are things going wrong? You are like standing at the top of the tower and seeing the bird's eye view, zooming out and seeing everything. So that also is a beautiful possibility when you are a project manager at the sweet spot. That is what is consuming most of your time. You will grow very slowly and steadily. There are a lot of people in this band in the professional career. A lot of people are, I would say, 80% of people are there in the sweet spot. You have 5% at the lower end and 5% at the high end. I'm not going to talk about high end. High end is people who do a lot of disruption. They are agents for disruption, and only I leave you with the thought that disruption will happen because of people who are in the high end. It is not deliberate. It is a lot of time situational, and you will be a receiving party because of that disruption. Today we are having a lot of disruption because of COVID. So you are not in that high end position for you to disrupt things. You are at the receiving end. So why I'm telling you this is when you are in the low end and when you're in the sweet spot, you will come across a lot of disruption coming from the top. You will have to either embrace it as a constraint or understand as to why is this disruption happening. Go zoom out and see why it is happening. Go zoom in and change your plans, and then zoom out and see whether it is going to work, whether it is working, and things like that. That is what you will be able to do. Since high end is very far for you all, so I won't talk much about it. But only thing I repeat again, the disruption most of the time is not deliberate. It is most of the time situational. Only thing is it is matter of perception and understanding. So with that, let me